Hey everybody, welcome to the Did You Know Crypto podcast. Today I'm going to be talking to Jonathan Hales of BitBacker, a censorship-free Bitcoin alternative to Patreon. I originally got really interested in this because of all the deplatforming stuff, but we're going to talk to Jonathan here in just 1 second. First, I wanted to ask if you could do me a huge favor. Go on to iTunes, leave a 5-star and 5 stars and a review. I'd really appreciate it. And also, if you don't listen on iTunes, you listen on a different one, please subscribe and do whatever like or rating that they allow on there. It really helps, so much. I really would appreciate it. I'd be eternally grateful. So, once again, thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Welcome to the Did You Know Crypto podcast. I'd like to welcome Jonathan Hales, founder of BitBacker, a Bitcoin crypto-based Patreon alternative that doesn't censor speech using uncensorable money. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dustin. Great to be here.
Now, before we start and talk about BitBacker, I want to ask the question that I ask every guest and that I think everybody gets asked on every podcast. But, how did Bitcoin find you and what has your journey been like? Who were you before all of this, and what changed your mind?
That's a great question. I believe I found it around 2012. I think I was introduced to it by my roommate when I was a roommate and also colleague in grad school. I was a math student back then. And I've been in and out of it since then. I started out on MT Gox. And after grad school, I took a brief trip into quantitative finance for a little while, and now I'm here.
So you've been around for quite a while then.
A little while, yeah.
Yeah, 2012 is a lot of people kind of got into it, about 2014, I think, right, when it first was starting to make that, or 2013, 2014, breaking that $1,000 barrier was when it really got the news. But 2012
that was
pretty
great.
early.
That was a great time.
Yeah, it was. That's. I got in, or I started to. I'd heard about it probably, maybe even back into 2012. I can't remember when I first heard about it, but I'd gotten into it right around 2013, and I started mining with GPUs and all that. And I wish I'd held on to every single thing that I mined back in those days. But
yeah, don't we all?
Yeah. So now BitBacker is very interesting, because we've seen these purges in social media. Of personalities, for better or worse, whatever your opinions of them are, but they are people with large followings who've been purged because the tech oligarchs have kind of deemed them misfits. And then more recently, in kind of conjunction with that, we've seen not only a deplatforming on the actual media platforms, but by financial middlemen, PayPal, credit card companies, and Patreon has been doing this as well. At least I became more aware of it in the last, month or so. And actually, I think it was within the last day. And today is the January 2nd. So within the last day or so of today, it was Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin did a big announcement that they're going to be voluntarily leaving Patreon basically in protest.
Yeah, I heard that. That's very impressive.
If I didn't listen to the whole thing, I saw a video posted and then I listened to a quick clip of it, but it was really what was piqued my, kind of got my ears up, was that in that announcement, they were talking about the need to end, censorship in these platforms, but more importantly, how much trust and power we've put in financial middlemen and how much, the ability that they have to actually censor speech by just saying, we won't process your transactions that they have. So I think it's really important because these guys have millions of listeners, and they were both, if I looked, I think Jordan Peterson was number 16 on Patreon, and Dave Rubin was number 77.
Wow.
So they're all within the top 100. But they were talking about the exact use case for Bitcoin. So, sorry for the long spiel introduction there, but no. I'm guessing basically this is what you created BitBacker for. So tell us what it is, what it can do, who it's for.
To be honest, I actually started a little bit before a lot of the deplatforming began. And I was pretty much up in, there was stuff happening on Twitter and YouTube, but the site was basically up and running a couple of weeks before the Patreon deplatforming started. So it was really just a very lucky situation to really just be able to catch that wave right as it started. Um, and it's of course definitely very welcome to these users, and I very much welcome it. But the short answer of BitBacker is it's basically supposed to be a Patreon style site where content creators can get supported with cryptocurrency. I don't know how else to describe it. Do you have any?
No, no, and if everybody's not familiar with Patreon, it's basically a way that content creators can get paid. So basically, they create a page, people can go on there, and there's different tiers of memberships, and you get different things. If it's like $1 a month, maybe you can get access to their YouTube feed. If it's like $10, and you get extra special YouTubes that only these guys get or whatever. And there's just different tiers based on what you pay. And initially, when I heard about Patreon, I was really excited because I was like, this is a really great idea, because then you can have these independent voices not have to rely on mainstream media, and going like they can make their own, because I mean that was the thing, you could make your own YouTube site, but then you had to go through advertisers if you wanted to make money and
Mm-hmm.
monetize, which a lot of them do in conjunction. But for people that didn't want to do advertisers, or not that many, or just have maybe like one or two main ones, it was a way for people to go, I like what these people are doing, and to be able to support them. So these people can do whatever it is that they do and say whatever it is that they say that other people like, and not have to be, relying on these
Oh
middlemen,
yeah, absolutely. No,
in the media.
I really like that too, and I kind of think that um, Bitcoin really fits very well with this group of kind of these independent content creators who aren't really established people. And kind of one of the reasons why I was planning this is I kind of think that, or my hope is that we're going to see kind of a large scale adoption among this new demographic of independent content creators or intellectuals or artists. And I'm really kind of hoping that to kind of ride this wave a little with Bitbacker. The other thing I also kind of wanted to mention, I just remember when you were speaking a little bit, was that Bitcoin also has kind of this ancient history with freedom of speech or freedom of payments that we kind of really forget about. But the very first bull run, actually even preceding, I forget exactly the year, but even before I started, was with WikiLeaks. That's really the first major use case of Bitcoin, even preceding the black market. So I just really wanted to emphasize just how tied, in my mind, blockchain technology is with, just kind of this freedom of payment and independent content creation.
No, definitely, and that's something I've been talking about on Twitter, over the last, like, I don't know, week, especially since I saw a lot of the stuff with Patreon and Sargon of Akkad kind of really kicked off, the latest thing. Because when like guys like Milo got kicked off, or Richard Spencer,
Yeah,
I mean, you kind of expected it, and they were kind of asking for it in a way. I mean, Milo's
yeah, well,
whole
clearly, yeah.
shtick is pushing things to the limit. With Sargon's, it was really pretty mundane, and really not anything that you would have
Well, it was
expected.
quite
But
shocking.
I,
Yeah, because I mean, I'm sure you've read the text, but everyone is welcome, of course, on Bitbacker. But when you read that text in particular, he was kicked off for doing the opposite of what he was saying. It's very surreal.
yeah, it just seemed like it was one of those things. Like he was in the crosshairs, and they found a way to just say it doesn't matter if you take it out of context. He said this is the way we took it, you're off, because it's a lot easier to keep someone off a platform you've already kicked off than try to like backpedal and all that.
Hmm.
So and what I've been saying is that this, you mentioned WikiLeaks, I felt like we're on the cusp of another WikiLeaks moment, because you are seeing all these people who are going off these platforms and looking for a way to connect with their
Hmm.
supporters, and not have to worry about whether somebody out in Silicon Valley agrees with their speech or not. They just want to be able to connect with them, give them what they want, and receive a whatever monetary thing that their supporters send them. And I feel like it's close to being something. The only thing that would really upset that is if you see some major backpedaling, because I think that the tech folks on on Twitter and Facebook and all that, and the amount and how overt it is,
It's crazy,
and
honestly.
especially now
Yeah.
for
I mean, it seems like
that they're
they're doubling down, to be honest.
yep.
It's honestly bizarre. I've thought about it a little bit, and I have certain theories about kind of what's motivating their behavior, but it really does seem kind of economically irrational and just kind of suicidal.
Yeah, somebody that when I made that case, and they're like, "Well, it doesn't make any sense. Why would they do that? Because it's costing them money." And it does make sense when you take it as a matter of
Yeah,
ideology,
yeah.
and that it is very ideologically driven. And if you take it in that form, when people have a evangelical-ish, this is my own personal opinion, but they have it's kind of an evangelical-ish kind of belief system,
Hmm.
in their ideology, and they won't tolerate their version of sin,
Hmm.
within their
Yeah.
business. And that makes total sense, because people with that ideological driven mindset will in fact do what hurts them in the pocketbook. It's the same way with like the baking the cake situation. I mean,
Oh
yes,
yeah,
it hurts them by not taking the money, but that's their ideological bent, and that they don't want to participate in that economic transaction.
yeah. We'll see. We'll see how they do. I mean, it's tragic for all the deplatforming, but I'm also, in this very narrow self-interest sort of way, excited that there's this big opportunity now for kind of alternative payment platforms to really capitalize on this.
No, definitely, and I'm very excited for it. It's one of those things. I think it'll get pretty bad, and then you're going to see someone coming up, and something, filling that niche, because nature abhors a vacuum. So something's going to fill it, and then that's when you're going to see a really interesting thing come on, because they're not going to be the only game in town. But so on BitBacker, it's a crypto based payment platform
Yeah.
for these folks. So currently, what do you guys accept on there?
Currently, we have Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, and a smaller coin called Smart Cash, and we're probably going to be integrating a few more towards the end of this month.
Are there? Yeah, I was just going to ask you on plans for any other currencies. Are you planning on doing any sort of Lightning Network and stuff as well once
Yeah,
that is
absolutely.
online?
I actually have a call about that later this week in particular. Lightning Network is very interesting. I'm One of the things about BitBacker is that's a little bit different from a lot of the other sites is we really try to just be very coin neutral, because I know there's a lot of controversy and a lot of people get very upset about this, but we're trying to just accept all the coins as much as possible, just whatever people use, and we kind of want to take a market neutral stance to that, and let the users decide who they want to support and also which coins they want to use too. But Lightning Network sounds fantastic.
No, no, and I definitely think that's a good idea. Some people, and there's groups of folks that really hit hard on any company that doesn't, solely accept just their one coin, whatever
Yeah.
that may be. But as a business, it doesn't make any sense for you to um, not accept something that either a content creator wants to use, or a patron,
Yeah,
wants to
absolutely.
give. But
And that's the other thing too, is just also with the patrons too, because one of the things with BitBacker is we were talking a little bit earlier about just kind of this new content creator demographic that could be really fertile for Bitcoin to expand into, or cryptocurrency in general to expand into. And one of the things with these really large platforms like Steemit, which are fantastic platforms, but they can be a little bit intimidating even to kind of sophisticated crypto users. It's a whole new coin, and you kind of, if you want to do this social network with crypto, it's just there's a whole bunch of assumptions built in there. And if you're trying to kind of onboard artists who have maybe just heard of Bitcoin, it's much easier to say you can take Bitcoin or whatever currency you've heard of, whatever your friends are using, and we're just going to keep this very simple, very familiar, and not trying to sell you on this entirely new cryptocurrency. And so that's another big thing, is try to make the usability and simplicity to the artist or the end user.
now, walk us through the way that it works. Are these the wallets? And I checked out, and I signed up to
Yeah,
look at it. And so I was wondering if you could explain a little bit, like, how does it work?
yeah,
When
yeah. So
as a
this is something I'm a little bit a little happy with. It starts to get a little bit technical. I'm not exactly sure what your target audience is, but we do everything in browser, so we're fully non-custodial, which is very nice, both from a security and a regulatory standpoint. And so basically, whenever you send the coins, we just we split the transaction in the browser and we skim off a 1% fee for ourselves and send the rest to the creator. And we never touch the funds other than what is ours.
So basically, when the content creator signing up, they're going to just input their wallet addresses in there,
Yeah,
and
all we ask
then
for is a public key.
okay. And then as far as for now, I know you guys are going to be doing the same thing, like Patreon, where you can do like an automated monthly payment or whatever.
Yeah, so it's a little complicated because you can't exactly move Patreon over to crypto because there are certain things, most famously, which is the thing that initially discouraged me from even starting the site, which was this notion that Patreon kind of relies on like this, the gym membership pattern, where people kind of forget about their donations and you just keep on docking from their bank account. With Bitcoin, famously, you can't do that because you own your keys. So it's kind of a hypothesis or an experiment that people will still continue to donate if we just really simplify the payment process. So each month we collect all your payments together into a single, easy to use, single click payment, send you 2 reminder emails, 1 late notice, and then finally a cancellation if it doesn't work out. And so far, people have been paying. We're also looking probably later this week. I don't want to promise anything until it's done, but very soon we're also going to have these kind of package deals where people can buy several months at once for a discounted fee. And so these are kind of the different variants we're using towards the Patreon style, US dollar subscription service.
And you guys also do I forget the name of it, where basically you can send like a message donation.
Oh yeah, power chats. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is also something that's different from Patreon that I actually kind of like, and probably does about, I haven't crunched the exact numbers, but probably maybe even does more than the actual pledges, to be honest with you. So basically, it really follows kind of like a Twitter, Facebook style social networking format with the different user profiles. But one thing that we did was we made it somewhat asymmetric, so that while the user can post anything they want to their timeline, if you want to post to your friend's timeline, we don't allow that unless you make this kind of tagged comment. So you can pay to essentially post on their timeline and have your words of encouragement read or compliments heard.
And that's kind of like, because on YouTube, one of the Patreon people that
that's how it started.
Yeah, and you could send basically like a power message. So instead
That's
of
right.
just being one of a billion voices in like a text box down there, if and it's limited
Absolutely.
by characters how much you give, but if you give
Mm-hmm.
like $5, you could do like maybe like a sentence and a half, and then that shows up like right in front of their face, and if they answer it, they get paid. If they don't get to it, then you don't get charged for it. But I really like that idea. And what are the capabilities right now for a content creator if they went and signed up right now? I mean, obviously it's not gonna be the full user experience of Patreon. You guys are just getting off the ground right now. But what exactly would a content creator signing up right now be able to offer to their supporters?
Yeah. So as you said, like, we're just getting started and we're trying to adopt all these changes. Honestly, like, it took us a little bit by surprise. Like, I just wanted to get this one project out, and then all of a sudden you had this Patreon thing hit. And so I'm trying to just get everything done as fast as possible for everybody. Right now we allow you to filter your posts for a subscription level, which you can set. And then we also offer so you can set like how much you want a subscription level. We have a single tier for now. But we're looking to add more of them. We're kind of talking to users to kind of see what type of thing they want first. But for now, it's a single tier. And based on that, you can restrict access to your posts. And we also allow these kind of one-off super chat or power chat type donations that can go to your wall. And also you can put in a link to your stream and kind of use a wrapper so that people can send you power chats during your stream as well.
Hey, I hope that you are enjoying listening to this episode as much as we did recording it. I don't have any sponsorships, so I'd really appreciate it if you go over to iTunes, rate and review it 5 stars if you think I'm worthy of it, or wherever you're listening to the podcast right now. If you could also go to our Twitter, our Facebook, our Instagram, any of the social media pages that we have, like and share them. It really helps spread the word. So once again, thanks for listening and enjoy the rest of the show. Okay, so and what other things are your? I mean, I know you're going to be user driven, but what are some of the other things that you're
Yeah.
looking at offering over, let's just say, the next 2019?
Yeah. Oh, that's a long time. I'm thinking even in the next month or
Yeah.
something. So yeah, we're also, if you're listening to this and you're a content creator and you hear something, you want something there, or you say, I just need this before I really join the platform, please reach out, because I'm really eager to hear and really eager to kind of mold it to what you want. But as I said before, the thing we're working on right now are these kind of package deal offerings. So you just kind of get this lump sum where you can pay, get the user to pay up front for a certain number of months. Another thing we're working on is perhaps integration over kind of Twitch streaming. So I think it's this OBS thing that I'm looking at, and it's kind of a stream overlay so that you can really just imprint the chats directly into the channel. That's another thing that we're looking at. And other than that, I think we're also focused a lot on expanding the number of coins we offer. And I think those are the major ones we're working on, in the very short term.
Now, as far as when you say that you're not going to censor speech, if you could go over, like, what do you mean by that? 'Cause I'm guessing,
Uh,
and no one will blame you that that this isn't like a free for all, anybody and everybody with whatever they're doing. So that I imagine there's some modicum of rules and terms of service sort of deal that
yeah.
users and creators must abide by. And what exactly are those rules, if any, I guess?
Well, I just want to be clear, like, if there is something illegal, we will abide by any sort of laws that are demanded of us by the U.S.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just that's what it's going to be. But other than that, we're really taking somewhat of a hands-off approach too. Like, I read this article about Patreon, and I read that 10% of their workforce is used simply just to moderate the website, which is just kind of an incredible expenditure of labor, aside from just any sort of ideological issues you have with that. And so we're really trying to take a very hands-off approach, just both for economic reasons. It's just very expensive. And, we're trying to really offer not only just a freer version of Patreon, but also a much cheaper one. We're trying to keep our fees around 1%, while Patreons are stuck up around 10% and YouTube's are up around 30%.
Yeah,
So
that's insane. I didn't realize that YouTube, when I would send those power messages, that they were that expensive.
yeah, these are some of the figures I heard, and I was just like, well, we can do better than that. That's crazy. But even if they really push, I was just looking, like, the payment processors just they kind of have this kind of core atomic fee that you just take 5% off just to pay off these gateway payment providers. And so we really can get to, the fact that we're aiming around 1% here. We're getting at a level that really Patreon or any of these other fiat centered services really can't approach. But so we're trying to really keep that 1%. In order to kind of get that 1% to you, we want to, for example, do away with this very Orwellian content management department, which is 10% of the workforce. So it's kind of two birds with one stone. Not only do we not police you with very aggressive content regulation, but the hope is that we also are going to be able to provide you a much cheaper service. And there are certain ways we have to kind of figure this out too. Like, I'm still trying to figure out exactly how to deal with embeddings of photos. So one thing might be, because I don't want somebody to, just come to see their favorite engineering blog and then just see some sort of graphic photo that they don't want to see. So one idea, just as an example of kind of a hands-off approach to moderation, might be that any sort of picture embed might become automatically available only to sponsors. And that's kind of a simple solution, because if you're paying for the content, that's kind of between you two. And of course, if there's anything illegal being posted there, we'll get on that and police that. But, if it's just something that is legal, but some people might find unsettling, it's a very, simple way and a very cheap way to prevent people from getting offended while still allowing people to express themselves on the site.
Yeah, the first time that actually the reason you came on radar is I'd heard about, I don't know how long ago it was, but I mean I'd heard a mention of it, and then it was actually Naomi Brockwell
Yeah.
on Tom Woods when
Oh,
she was
excellent.
talking about that, and she was talking about BitBacker and saying that Tom should get on there,
Hmm.
and I think it's really cool. I think it's very very needed,
Appreciate it.
um, and yeah, it's I imagine it's got to be pretty stressful because you were just thinking you were just gonna kind of take your time and get this thing up, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you have people mentioning you on large platforms and saying go sign up, and now you're in a hurry.
Yeah. No. And all of a sudden, I have to, before it was kind of a cool project. Now they're like, well, this isn't exactly the same as Patreon. I don't have every single
Yeah,
capability of Patreon. And you're like, yeah, Patreon's like, you know, almost $1 billion company here. I'm just going to get there, but so it's tough. But we've got really enthusiastic users who've just been really supportive and really just helpful in kind of pushing the message. And we're getting stuff done. And I think we're just really focusing on the essentials that people want, and going after kind of demographics that really are needing what we're providing. Like one big user that we got on our platform is I think uh, she was probably most well known by the name like Sexy Cyborg. She's this engineer from Shenzhen who is
okay,
also on Patreon, and you know she's kind of like what, for other than just this kind of free speech issue, which is kind of one of the major reasons why she wants to work with us. But I also really like the idea that it's kind of this international payment system. And so now you can kind of have creators in China and America kind of communicating and really just working with each other. Um, and once you start to go international, the payment system becomes much more complicated. And even if you were able to get, somehow, money to a creator in China, there's a lot of the world that is not necessarily plugged into the international financial system led by the U.S. And it would really make me really happy if BitBacker started to kind of bridge that to a certain extent and kind of create this international financial community or
yeah.
facilitate it.
Yeah, I mean, because if you had somebody, say, in a country, I mean, granted, internet can be spotty or whatever, right, for their creators. But if you had somebody like in a country like, Iraq or Afghanistan, and
Yeah,
believe it or not, if people have, been there investigated, there's actually, internet and everything all there. But
yeah,
if you got a patron in the United States trying to send a PayPal to somebody, they're not going to be able to access that. They have
yeah,
no
exactly.
access to the international financial system, even though they have access to the internet. So
Yeah,
we can do this with Bitcoin.
yeah, yeah. That's what I'm very excited about too.
And I think for, especially for like content creators out there, if they are going, if they go and they, look at, they're like, well, this is not exactly the same user experience that we're going to get on Patreon. I would implore them to sign up, to have this, definitely, if you haven't had any issues, just as a backup, and also as a way for people who go like, I want to pay in Bitcoin, right? That
Yeah,
or whatever crypto that they decide and you guys offer, just to have that as a backup. And I've been recommending,
it's a
um,
backup. It's also cheaper too. I mean,
yeah.
there are other things too. And here's the other thing too is I just want to point out like, and this is a totally reasonable critique, which is people say, oh well, sorry about that, my
Oh no,
cough.
it's fine.
So, yeah, so a totally reasonable critique, but certain people say, oh, well, we have a Bitcoin address. I'm just going to post this up on my website, and we'll get donations like this. And totally fair. This is in some ways the ideal way to get money is you just put up a Bitcoin address and money streams in through the internet. But just that it doesn't quite work like that in the real world, right? Like in the fiat world, people like to use Patreon, not just PayPal, to send their money because you kind of need to kind of foster this user experience. And just as a concrete example, I remember just talking with Naomi, and she had for years just like a Bitcoin address up, looking for donations, and she got some, but within a month at BitBacker, she got like 100 times more donations, Bitcoin donations, than she had for years just sticking up a Bitcoin address. And so it really, really matters just the context in which you present and ask for donations to people.
No, definitely. And even for those folks out there who go, like I don't really get, if you're a content creator and you go like, well, I don't really want to deal with Bitcoin per se, and I still need to get my funds in cash, and it's volatility and all that kind of stuff. And that's
Mhm.
understandable. I get that because a lot of this is how people pay their rent. Um,
100%.
and there's ways to do that
Yeah.
for it's always recommended hold your own keys and hold your own your own coins in your own wallets with your own keys, but there are platforms like Uphold. I don't know if you've ever looked at them.
What's the name?
They're Uphold.
Upple?
They're kind of like a
Okay.
Coinbase basically, and I've been using them since I got deplatformed from Coinbase for no reason. But midway through 2017, I just got an email saying I was kicked off, and I kept on asking why, and no one would ever get back to me. Um,
Oh my God.
and never since. So I just kind of gave up. I went to Uphold because it's a good way to on ramp my cash into
Uh,
Bitcoin. And what I do like about them is they have a way. So if you have a Bitcoin wallet on there, you can actually give an address that will, it's a Bitcoin address, but it
mhm.
automatically, when you get sent Bitcoin, it just automatically converts into cash, and you pay
Oh,
their I can't remember if it's a 0.6% or a 1% conversion fee. I'm not 100%.
that's very good.
No, and so if somebody pays you in Bitcoin, and you're a content creator on BitBacker, you could post this address up, but when it gets into your Uphold, it's immediately converted into US dollars that you can then, drop right into your
Excellent.
bank account.
I'm gonna get that address from you afterwards and see if we can work that into BitBacker, because I'm definitely looking for solutions to ease the fiat transition.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'll get you a couple contact emails and Twitter handles to contact. But yeah, I
That's
think
fantastic.
because there's a lot of people out there that I've talked to, and I even mentioned Bitbacker the other day to someone,
Hmm.
and because they were concerned about the deplatforming, they were like, well, it's just I don't really understand Bitcoin, and it's kind of difficult, and I'm so
Okay.
busy I don't have time to go and try to figure this out, which is a fair
Absolutely.
point. But if to have that ability to go like, oh, okay, if they send me Bitcoin, it's just automatically converted, and I just have it dropped into cash. I think that'd be helpful.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
and is there anything else that you would want people to know about BitBacker? Where to sign up? Anything else that you'd like to talk about?
No, I think you. I mean, as soon as we end, of course, I'll think of 10 other things that I should have mentioned. But I feel like you asked a lot of the right questions, a lot of good questions, and I can't think of anything else.
Yeah, and if in the future you have, I mean, we'll keep in contact via Twitter and everything like that. But if you have any other, like big announcements or things like that you want to, let people know about, feel free to contact me. And
Hmm.
what's oh yeah, before we go, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
I think on Twitter with bitbacker_IO.
Okay, and I will put up the Bitbacker address, the Twitter handles, and anything else that we mentioned, and the links will be in the show notes under episode 19 at didyouknowcrypto.com. And Jonathan, thanks for coming on.
And thanks for having me on, Dustin. It's fantastic.